Topic 1. A gender reveal party ended in tragedy as a plane carrying a banner crashed into the sea, killing 2 people on board. The tragic incident occurred over the Caribbean Sea off the coast of Cancun, Mexico. This is one of many such incidences that have happened just in the past year. Have gender reveal parties gone too far? Should gender reveal parties be a thing when it drives parents to take part in bigger and more dangerous stunts? Should we just make a gender reveal parties illegal? Why are we celebrating children's genitals? That part came from our friend Samantha. That last question, you definitely know.
Yeah, it's phrased.
Yeah. So, in case you guys aren't aware of, to my audience, yes, we have these gender reveal parties. I'm sure you must have heard of them by now. It's as simple as it sounds. You having a baby, and you want to let like your group of friends know like what the gender is, right, or the sex is in any case. You do like you do a huge party, but parents have been sort of escalating the type of stunts that they perform. And so in this one particular one, there was a plane and it was carrying a banner that was going to reveal the name, right? Like, or excuse me, not the name, the sex of the baby, and it crashed. People died. Just a thing that happened. And there have been other examples. I guess we'll go over them later. But yeah, so just keeping you caught up. Should we be having these? Okay, we will start with Johnny.
Cool. There are so many different directions that we could go with this question. I don't think that celebrating the sex of the child is the most necessary thing. I can definitely see if you plan on gendering your child and you want people to bring the proper items to the baby shower, sure, why not? Have a big thing, blow up a little like sack of streamers that's pink or something like that. That's fine. But what I find is going to be probably the more like class reductionist take is God Almighty, these rich people, and their stunts and the ridiculousness of having like an entire aircraft involved in what to me is a really simple process of letting people know what color you would like the nursery to be.
Thank you. Tiffany.
I mean, first off, I take issue with calling them gender reveal parties. They can be more accurately described as sex reveal parties. People often consider both words interchangeable when in actuality there are distinct differences. Secondly, I always thought that it was weird to celebrate a child's genitalia. It seems like the kind of thing you'd be put on a registry for doing. You would think that cis-het individuals would have figured out by now that gender reveal parties are a bad idea. After what's transpired recently, the most recent being what you were talking about, the asinine stunt that they pulled with the airplane in Mexico, as if the general public gives a shit about your child's lack of dick. The banner should have said, check the power, because that would have really fucking helped. Then there was the poor bastard who blew himself up while constructing a device, that's how they describe it, whatever the hell that means. Apparently it was supposed to be a pipe, so a pipe bomb. So why not just call it a pipe bomb? Is it because man constructing terrorist weapon for child didn't have the same ring to it? I mean, I don't know. Oh, and this one's my favorite. Remember back in September when a group of people set fire to over 10,000 acres of forest due to an error in regards to pyrotechnics, ruining animal habitats in the name of children's private parts? Yeah, that was great. And just over a week ago, some dumb schmuck in New Hampshire almost did the same exact thing. Even the woman who started the gender reveal trend said that the parties are getting ridiculous and that they should stop having them. Listen, if you're going to have gender reveal parties, just make them conventional. Throw a party at your house, serve some snacks, put up some balloons and streamers, and enjoy your incredibly transphobic get-together. Just stop killing yourselves, and for fuck's sake, don't replace the balloons and streamers for pipe bombs and Molotov cocktails.
That's a solid start. Nice work, Tiffany. That's a strong start. All right, let's go, Dr. K.
I mean, I'm not super impassioned. Like, I'm gonna follow probably the general trend where I say, like, yeah, enjoy your stupid parties, I guess. I don't understand. Like, from a weird traditionalist perspective, like, I can kind of get why you would want to have something like this, because it's like, it's a way of saying, like, we're sticking it in the mud now because these kids always be trans in themselves, nowadays. And it's like, it's kind of weird. And I don't know if that's entirely, like, even the thought process behind all of it. It's kind of weird, frankly. I wouldn't do it for myself. But yeah, I would say that my main takeaway with stuff like this is, like, have your stupid party, but, like, stop fucking, like, using explosives and pyrotechnics. Like, even if like it's, the most, like, a wedding or like the biggest party of your life or something, involving explosives, helicopters, that kind of shit is generally going to end poorly. So, like, I don't know.
All right, thank you. Lyra, please.
So I pretty much like agree with everyone here about like I think gender reveal parties are very like weird and unnecessary. Like why do you have to have an extra party? Just have a baby shower and call it a day. I would never have one. I think it's silly and unnecessary. But at the same time, I don't think that's any reason to. Well, I know no one here said, "Hey, let's ban it," but I think it's very silly whenever I look on social media and people are like, "We should ban gender reveal parties, make them all illegal," because it's just like it's just a silly concept to me, because it's like, okay, I already think that gender reveal parties are dumb, but like if the goal is to stop people from having these dangerous parties and these dangerous stunts, banning gender reveal parties isn't going to cut it. Because like, I mean, it happened to be a gender reveal party, but that could have been someone's anniversary, that could have been someone's birthday party, and like the plane still would have crashed. And like with the Tiffany mentioned the guy who was building a bomb in his backyard. The issue there isn't that it was a gender reveal party. It was that a guy, some rando, was building a bomb in his backyard. So I think it's a very silly when people say, hey, let's ban gender reveal parties because they're stupid. It's like, hey, they're stupid, but like that's thinking something is stupid is not reason enough to ban it. But at the same time, I think more like regulations should be in place, not just with gender reveals, but like the big celebrations in general. Like keep making sure things are up to code, making sure like the pyrotechnical issue doesn't happen again, make sure people aren't building goddamn bombs in their backyard. I think like there were ways to regulate it without like scapegoating gender reveal parties. As stupid as I think they are, I think it's unnecessary and counterintuitive to try to like ban them all and scapegoat it and be like, it's the gender reveal's fault.
So I think
there's so many safer ways to do it too.
Yeah, it's like there are so many gender reveal. Like, most gender reveal parties don't end up in people dying. They're just like, congratulations on the girl, Bob. You're gonna be a great father, and then everyone goes home. That's what most gender reveal parties are. Sorry.
I don't know. I've come up with like a vastly better option if you're gonna do this stupid shit. Like, just get a really, really tiny piñata, fill it with like colored paper of whatever color you're trying to do, and put some candy in there too. So now, not only is no one dying in an explosion, you're also getting candy out of the ordeal. So like,
just have a normal
seems like a market upgrade. Yeah, exactly. Like, do normal shit. Don't fucking explode shit.
I know.
That's all we gotta say.
So I think Lyra is doing a good job showing that there's two different issues here. One is like the stunts themselves, right? And the other, I think, one, it's like it's a gender thing, right? Like, oh, this is like a big thing, a momentous occasion that what's between my kid's legs. All right, cool. Like that's an interesting thing, right? But I think the stunts part, especially, right? I feel like that's because of our Instagram age, right? Like people want to
do bigger and better.
Yeah, do bigger and better, and they want other people to think that their lives are so fucking great, right? Like they do all these crazy things. They want likes, they want retweets, they want all of these things, and so it drives them to do these stunts, to one up seeing someone else do something. Well, I can do better. I'm sure I can do better, right? And then we burn down a forest.
I was talking to somebody earlier today actually because like Twitter is awash with every video on every conceivable platform, like condensed into Twitter basically, and I see a lot of people getting made fun of or being celebrated at different intervals for crying in front of the camera and sharing these really intimate moments in front of the camera. And I can think of two ends of the spectrum. I can think of one end where it's like someone like there was a video of this girl whose snake had died, and it was like a big snake, and she was like she had set up the camera, and then she was like picking up the snake and holding it and just sobbing, and that was the whole video, and she like posted it with like sad music. And on the other end of the spectrum, there's a woman who shares very intimate daily moments with her mother who is suffering from Alzheimer's and losing her memory, and she shares very like beautiful things and moments where her mother doesn't remember who she is and she cries, or moments where she thinks that she's her granddaughter or something, and you know, she's laughing, really beautiful intimate things. But it's not on the end of like, you set this up so that people would cry about your situation, you know?
I feel you, because that does happen a lot on like every social media platform where like people decide like, or like the one that like strikes up the mind is like TikTok. Because everybody on TikTok, they do the crying videos. Oh, my boyfriend just broke up with me, and here comes the hailstorm of like, LOL, you did this, you're farming for likes. And like no social media platform is like pretty innocent of this, and like that just shows us like how like the social culture on the internet is like shifting towards the more cynical one, a more judgmental one. And I guess it would help to like, some people don't like, listen, sorry, I'm like stumbling over my words, but like there are for sure people who totally do it for the likes, totally do it because they're farming, for compliments or for sages. Yes, but like don't bully people because it's like, even if they are, hey, somebody out there wants to like, somebody out there loves like being there to support people through these moments, whether it's real or not to you, because hey, it's social media. Is anything real? And also like it's a very real thing where people use the internet to cope. Like, I mean, I think I would never, ever, ever take a video of just me crying, no words, and then upload it. I would never do that. But for some people, that in and of itself is like a coping mechanism. I think it may seem very unnecessary and very silly, but I mean, that's how some people cope. And I mean, if they're not hurting anybody, why care so much?
Yeah. I mean, they can hurt somebody though. Like, think about the videos that include the kids, and that, I've seen videos where people are punishing their kids for
Oh my.
any amount of things, like yelling at their kids.
Oh,
So
I
and
was
so
thinking
did
more
this,
like
and now I'm
sad
gonna
videos.
film it and put it on Facebook and stuff. Yeah, and it's sad things too. It's just like all of these daily moments that I feel like used to be so private, and we all knew that we went through them because like we all grew up in some sort of family unit. We all know what it's like to be like yelled at by a parent figure. But now it's like you're the parent, and you're uploading this stuff on the internet forever and ever and ever to see. And so what is that going to be later on?
Yeah, I think it's so strange when like parents upload videos of them disciplining their kids. It's so weird to me. Like this is even something that like we could bring up on the like ABE panel, because like I see this happens in like communities of color a lot, where people are just like uploading kids like, man, my daughter did something bad at school today, and like just recording themselves yelling at their child. It's just like, how productive is that? Like, what is this for? Like, huh? I do think that's very strange. When I was speaking before, I was more so thinking about like, like sad videos and things like, but I do totally see where you're coming from, Johnny. Like that, I think it is a very worthwhile conversation to have about like what is and isn't necessary to show on social media, what is and is not damaging. I think it does go very deep. I do think it's very strange when, like, parents upload the videos that you're thinking, that you mentioned about. But it's like, well, what do we do? Are we talking about like we should ban those, the internet?
I think
Like,
I,
what's the goal with it? I think it's weird, definitely, but like, what to do about it?
I-
I'm not quite
Well,
so sure.
I know I've talked a lot and I'm sorry,
no, it's
but there is
fine.
one thing that I think is going to be the future of this, and it has to do with OnlyFriends. I used to work for a lawyer, and it is his staunch belief that in about 15 to 20 years, we're going to see a lot of people who became memes, or whose parents made them a meme, or who made an OnlyFans when they were freshly 18 and they hadn't thought about it thoroughly enough. And we're going to see a lot of people going through the process of the right to be what Britain calls the right to be forgotten, suing Google or different social media platforms to take down their content that they posted or that someone else posted of them. And I think that I agree with him on some level of that it's going to be this big like boom in at least the legal industry and possibly, you know, the cybersecurity industry of like getting this data, making sure that it's scrubbed off of a certain platform. I know nothing is ever gone on the internet, but at least on certain platforms you can, you know, make sure with a certain amount of with a little bit of certainty that like most people don't have this information anymore. So like almost like a private eye but in reverse. Like you don't want to find something, you want to like cover it all up.
Mhm. I 100% see that happening. I like see that happen sometimes, even today, like where like when people have those very weird like prank YouTube videos, they just show people's faces, and then like later it comes up, oh, the young lady in this video really didn't like what happened and didn't consent to being on camera, and then like that becomes a huge drama thing. Like I think we're already seeing like waves of that happening, just with, like with people who are become like memes and like kind of foisted into the public eye without prior consent. I do think we're going to see a lot about that. Um, I'm not too familiar on like legally what options there are for people out there, but I do think given like with how like internet culture is only going to keep getting bigger. So like I can definitely see like the need for the legal system to start in including these cases, because like so far all I know about is like slander cases, when it comes to like social media. To my knowledge, I don't think there's a whole lot of like legal options for people who have like issues with like how they're portrayed on social media or like what's been happening currently. But I do think like society could definitely benefit from that, especially since it's so, it's so common nowadays. It is such a big part of everyone's life.
So to go back to the topic for originally, but I like where we're heading, and we'll go down this direction. But just to go back to the topic for a quick second, I like Elira. I think you've hit the nail on the head on like making this illegal. Like, how would you make specifically a gender reveal party illegal, right? Like, imagine the court case, right? So you had a party,
So weird.
and I mean, I guess maybe it comes to people's attention because you went wrong, right? And then it's like, well, what was discussed at this party, right? Did your baby's vagina come into play? Did anyone mention your baby's vagina?
Yeah, it's so weird. It's such a weird concept. Like whenever I see people who are just like, and they're always like liberals on Twitter, they're just like, well, I don't have Twitter, but like, I'll get all my news from Instagram, But like whenever I see people are just like, ban all the gender reveal parties, make them all illegal, it's just like, it's like if the goal is to stop people from getting hurt, it's like, why would banning gender reveal parties like fix that goal? Like in my head, I'll give an analogy. It's like, okay, there's a restaurant, and every time someone goes to this restaurant, they get the tomato soup. Next day, they have food poisoning. Everybody who gets the tomato soup at this restaurant gets food poisoning. So in response, the city decides to ban all soup. That's what it feels like. It's like, what is banning soup gonna do? Just like put more regulations on that restaurant.
Yeah,
Mm.
to me, it does make sense to ban gender reveal parties. I think they should
And you
just
couldn't.
be. Yeah, and you couldn't, but even then, like if for some reason they were like illegal or some crap like that, like through legislation, even if that was the case, which will never happen, I don't think that the parties themselves can be bad. There's just a few idiots out there that did some dangerous stunts, just like they didn't know what they were doing. They could have just had like a nice little party get together. Whatever happened to the whole, I'm gonna invite, my girlfriends over, and
Just get
my
some cake,
husband's
cupcakes or
boyfriend, like
something.
guy friends, and what they're all gonna come over. We're gonna have like cake and like snacks and cocktails, and we're just gonna like hang out and converse with like I said earlier, balloons and streamers, and then later on it's like, hey, look, this is the gender of my child, blah blah blah, and then they open presents and have a good time. Like that's fine. I don't give a shit about that. That's like any other conventional standard vanilla party. I just don't want people to like uh strap themselves to like fucking rockets while holding dynamite, flying into the air screaming the sex of their fucking baby. Don't do anything ridiculous like that. That's all
Actually,
I'm
no, you're
asking.
kind of selling on me. You're selling it to me now, actually.
It's a boy.
Yeah, they'll call it the Looney Tunes gender reveal. Get the Acme rocket, strap it to your back.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's just like, and like, it just like banning gender reveal parties like across the board won't fix that goal. Cause like, let me tell you, I know how weird people are, okay? And like, listen, these gosh dang rich people, as Johnny said earlier, it's like if you put a ban on I mean, I don't think it would happen. I think it would be silly for it to happen. But if gender reveal parties ever got banned and made illegal, they just gonna find another party to do it. They're just going to then they'll do it at weddings. Like there's a lot of weddings that like already go too far with the stunts. They'll do it for birthdays. They'll do it for anniversaries. So it's like there's something a little bit closer to the issue of like I think more regulations would be put on stunts in general. Yes, Dr. K. Sorry if I like am talking too much.
No,
That's fine. No, I generally take up a lot of space, so I'm trying to, chill my jets. But I'm wondering, right? In states where there's a ban on fireworks versus states where there is not a ban on fireworks, right? Do you see more fires start on 4th of July, right? Because if you see a decrease in fires started on 4th of July because of a fire, or in part due to a fireworks ban, right? Like then that is when I would say you can start to make the argument that legislation against, these explosive devices that they're using at parties would or wouldn't work. I would say.
Oh, so are you saying that like putting a restriction on like okay, going with the fireworks example. Like are you saying that like if we try to start like regulating fireworks, then
Yeah, because there's
still have an
precedent for
issue?
this. There's precedent for this because we already regulate fireworks in some states and not in others, right? And so I would say, I would want to look at the data on like fire prevention effectiveness on the date of 4th of July, because that would, if you had that by state, you could actually start to gauge the effectiveness or non-effectiveness of these bans on like, things that can essentially cause harm to the general public being wielded by citizens who are not necessarily professionals.
Now,
We're
see,
putting bans on those. Oh.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna like this is one of those things where I'm like full on don't ban fireworks. You can't. Why would anybody want to ban fireworks? Because first of all,
there's
you know what
plenty of
happens?
states that do it.
I know, and there in Louisiana, it actually changes from parish to parish, and it changes from city to city because there are areas in, for instance, Baton Rouge and New Orleans where you can and you cannot do fireworks, and it depends on how like if it's a residential area, how sparsely it's populated, things like that. But what I'm trying to say is this is one of those things where I'm like spiritually against banning fireworks, and I don't even have a good reason why not.
It's ideological.
They're absolutely dangerous. But you know what happens when you ban fireworks for like the normal average person? Just regular ass, firecrackers, just little, streamers and stuff like that. Sprinklers, excuse me. What is that called? Where it has sparklers, that's it. Sparklers, shit like that. You start banning that kind of stuff. Well, you get to where you have New York and New Jersey. And I've seen New York's like skyline fireworks show, and it's amazing and it's beautiful and it spans the whole city and it's just breathtaking. But imagine if that went wrong. So it's basically putting all of the violence again in the hands of the state, because you get these like insane, like, okay, the state's only going to put on our sanctioned fireworks show once a year. They're really going to do it up big this year. Well, imagine if it blew up all of New York or something like that. Imagine if it blew up the skyscraper that it was attached to the top of. Like,
well, I mean, national institutions are good.
That's the kind of thing that you risk when you say that the normal average person on the street can't have their small little piddling fireworks show. Okay, that's my argument.
I mean, even states that legalize fireworks, depending on the state, still limit what kind of fireworks you can buy. It's not like you can go in there and get like the big canisters and like that could like blow up a warehouse or something like that. Unless there's data to provide evidence otherwise, I'm actually for legalizing fireworks. I think depending on the fireworks, there should be some restrictions, but I'm not against it. I live next to New Hampshire. It's legal there. There are people from Mass that will flock over the border, buy a shit ton of fireworks and come back. And I hear fireworks going off like a month after 4th of July. It's ridiculous. But
for some reason, I love the phrase "legalize fireworks."
Also, well, I mean, I don't think it's legal in Mass. I haven't checked, but it might be for all I know. I mean, if people are sending them off here, I would hope. But we can't forget that it's not just fireworks. There was that idiot who was building his own pipe bomb in his garage. So, wouldn't you be more worried about people doing that as opposed to getting fireworks? Because I don't know a lot of people buying fireworks for gender reveal parties. I feel like that's more of a
it's not necessarily the firework. It's the idea of like this, random explosive device, being wielded by citizenry.
Well, yeah, I mean, but
for the purpose
that guy
of celebration.
was making his own. So if you can just make your own, why banning the fireworks won't do anything unless you also ban whatever you can make bombs out of it, which is a lot of stuff. I don't know. It seems like a slippery slope.
Interesting proposal for a business here is getting into gender reveal fireworks that are like nice and safe, so they don't have to be building their own pipe bombs. Interesting. So, anyone want to go in half and half with me on this business idea?
What do you want to go on Shark Tank? Present that?
I mean, no, I fucking hate everyone on that goddamn show. But
me too. I'd go on there just to tell them that they're like pieces of shit.
I would like to drag my nuts gently across that small bald man on that show. Anyways,
I want to push back on like I feel like you're all focusing more on the quote unquote explosive part rather than like the pyrotechnic part, right? Because like the explosive of these fireworks aren't going. Too. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I know. Listen, because the explosive capacity of those fireworks isn't enough. So when you see like a fireworks blow up a factory, right? It's because it was stacked with fireworks, right? Like not because just one went off and it detonated a firework. So like I'm just saying like the danger level need to adjust. So I don't think like fireworks could blow up a building. Now set a building on fire if like it somehow goes into a window and then sets a fire there. That I could see, but blowing it up, no, I don't see that at all.
I didn't literally mean like to pieces.
But then beyond that, talking about illegal fireworks, I guess, like unsanctioned fireworks. So I was in the Netherlands years ago, right? I've seen the New York celebration, right? And it's like whatever. But I was in the Netherlands where they apparently have their own celebration, their fireworks celebration for New Year's. But they also quote unquote allow unofficial celebrations, right? So people just buy up all the fireworks in the city, and they'll go to certain places right around the city and set them off. And so one is a Rembrandt Park or Square, right? That I went to. Amazing, beautiful. Like the amount of fireworks that went off, it was this amazing, and it was so much fireworks that it was covered in smoke, and you couldn't see 5 feet in front of you. Like it was just that much fireworks that just went off in this one area. I would say, to Johnny's point, that was not the safest because I saw one firework. It like it was supposed to go straight up, but it went off at an angle. It hit like an overhang, like a building overhang, and then like bounced to the ground. I was like, okay, well, that was pretty terrible. Someone could have gotten seriously hurt, or something could have been set on fire. But yeah, I mean, it was fine in the end. But it was like a fantastic experience. So I guess I'm kind of split between Johnny and Tiffany when it comes to like whether it should be illegal or illegal, because I would like to give people more freedom to be able to do these things. Also, though, I don't trust people. So
No, I agree.
yeah.
Like, here's the thing: just because I'm for like legalizing fireworks to an extent, doesn't mean we can't have like rules and regulations or laws even to like help out with that. Like, I don't think you should be able to shoot fireworks off in, say, dry, dense forests like they did at that one gender reveal party. I think, and maybe even you can, like, I think some states already do this, limit the amount of fireworks you can actually buy and carry. So I mean, I'm all for like rules and regulations to help kind of stem any accidents like that. uh but I'm not like for eliminating like just flat out banning fireworks at all.
Mhm.
So back to the actual gender part of this, right? So why why do you all think that's necessarily a problem? Like, just like, I mean,
What?
yeah, like what
exactly?
specifically? Because I think people in the audience might not understand like why you might think that, like why it's a problem. Okay, I just want to share this as a family, right? Like we kept the
Why is what a
ultrasound a
problem?
secret. No, the revealing the gender, revealing the
Oh,
gender.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Like I kept the ultrasound a secret, right? And we want to have a big celebration with everyone, and like, hey, like, well, even if you're not involving explosives, okay, and we've established that, but like having like a party to celebrate, hey, I'm having a boy, a son, or a daughter, a girl, right? What's wrong with that?
Hmm.
Well,
There's nothing inherently wrong with it. Here, you go ahead, Lara.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't think. Yeah, I think Johnny might have been about to say, but see, we're so linked. We're linked. But I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it. It's just weird. I mean, to me personally, I think it's weird and unnecessary because it's just like, okay. I mean, listen. If I'm having my first child, I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna have a little girl, and like, fully well in 10 years. Hey, mom, I'm not a girl. I'm a boy, and I'd be like, okay, cool. I'm fully aware of that. That like my child may switch genders, later on in life, and then that turns out all this time they have been a gender that does not match their sex. I'm sorry if I'm using wrong terminology there. I'm admittedly
I don't
not
care.
very good with terminology here. But like, I understand like being excited, as an expecting mother or father about what gender your baby is going to be. I think having a whole party for it is weird and unnecessary. Like I said before, just have a baby shower and call it a day. But I don't think there's anything like wrong with like celebrating the gender of your child in and of itself. It's just weird. But like, I mean, being weird's not cause enough to want to ban something.
Yeah, I mean, I just it depends on the reasoning for it. Like I said, if they want to like reveal the sex of their child, I don't care. But like conflating sex and gender, I don't know. I just have an issue with it. Like, I think it's a harmful dichotomy. It's harmful to transgender and non-binary people, even if the people don't even realize it. Like, they're already like trying to establish gender roles on an unborn kid, and I don't know, I feel like anyone that throws a party like this, uh I don't know, I could be wrong. I guess it's a case by case basis, but I would just imagine anyone that's throwing like a gender reveal party is more interested in the binary sex and not really interested in what their kid could be. I don't know.
Hmm.
How is that? Okay, so we'll go to Dr. K then. I have another question for you, Tiffany. But go ahead, Dr. K, please.
I don't know. I think it's aggressively cisgender, but like I have absolutely no problem with it, and I would love to go to one. Like, especially if they're giving like a free tequila or something like that. Like I would love to go to one of these parties. And there's nothing wrong with them at all, honestly. It's just kind of a weird cisgender thing, I suppose.
I love that we're all
honestly,
kind of ignoring the fact that pregnant women can't drink and just assuming that there's alcohol at these parties.
I want to go see the fireworks show.
There's definitely alcohol at these parties.
The alcohol might not be for the pregnant woman. It might be for
any
everyone
good
else.
adult party has a little bit of alcohol at it. And I'm sorry, the lady in waiting may not have a good drink. We'll fix that a couple months after the baby's born, though. Anyways, what else was I thinking? I was thinking that, yeah, it's just sort of yes. Essentially, like, even if they aren't gonna have a gender reveal party, they're still gonna gender the baby, just because that's kind of what parents tend to do with their children. So like it's not like the party itself is what's causing the gendering of the child. And like if a parent wants to gender their child, I don't give a fuck. But like the more important thing here is, if the child chooses to refute the gender that was given onto it, like, does the familial support remain? That's where the actual interesting and important part of that conversation lies. Like, gender reveal parties are just like a weird anomaly of like parenting, pizzazz or whatever.
Johnny?
I want to pose. They say that if you can argue for something that you disagree with, then it's, it'll make you a better arguer. So let me work with this for a second. Imagine in this day and age, and I'm not saying a perfect utopian world where nobody genders their child. I'm saying in this day and age, somebody truly, and I'm not talking a celebrity, I'm talking a normal ass person, truly decides to not let anyone know what is in their child's pants. What happens? What is the following few years like for that child and those parents? Well, I imagine it to be probably a lot of questions, probably a lot of, oh, why didn't you? Or, oh, what are you going to do when? Or things like that coming up for the parents. But the child in particular, there's going to be very normal, very innocuous things that kids are going to go through, which bathroom line they're going to get in and which hand they're going to hold when they go in the bathroom line, and all these little kindergarten things. Like, they're gendered, but they're not really gendered, they're sexed. They're based on, and it even goes to like medical stuff. Like when you put them in sex ed, generally you separate kids by sex. Do I agree with that? Not really, but it happens. So this kid is going to start going through all of these like kindergarten, first grade things that are generally sexed, and they're not going to know which group to go into. And it's almost going to be like that kid's genitals are not going to come out until there's like a medical accident or something, and people find out like, oh, it turns out little so-and-so had a vagina. That's the kind of shit that I imagine to happen. So then everybody finds out by accident instead of every other kid where everybody just found out what was in their pants from the get-go. It's almost like,
Sorry, we have a lot of background noise.
yeah.
Oh, from me?
Yeah, I guess maybe, is it a ice cream truck going by you, maybe?
Yeah, that fucker comes by every day, don't worry.
No,
Can you
fair
get me
enough.
one of those?
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
Can you get me one of those Slimer pops with like the gumball eyes?
You can even keep it up. Keep up the sound. It's pleasant. I just wanted to make sure I knew.
No, I'm just gonna mute myself. It's all good, mate.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
So there's this series of things that happens to this child, and then all of a sudden, no matter what it is, somehow somebody sees the kid naked, something like that. One of the classmates tells after a sleepover. The kids are eventually going to find out what's in little so-and-so's pants. Well, now for little so-and-so, it's a big ass deal because the parents didn't go ahead and reveal it from the get-go like every other parent did. It's almost like the gender reveal party, or the gender reveal in general, the sex reveal is really what we should be calling them. The sex reveal at the get-go is almost to save little so-and-so the embarrassment of, oh, later on we're going to find out, everybody's going to accidentally find out what's in little so-and-so's pants. Do you see what I'm saying? I know that this is something that most of us are going to vehemently disagree with and say, well, that's stupid. You know, we should be able to move past that in society and not have little so and so go through trauma because of that. But realistically, that's probably what it's going to be for the first few parents who decide we're genuinely not going to let people know what the sex of our child is.
I'm not saying that they shouldn't let the people know what the sex of the child is. I think it's important. I just don't think they need to throw a big ass party for it. They could just be like, "Oh yeah,
No.
they're gonna come out, with a penis or a vagina." Like I don't like just I don't know. Maybe I'm just being casual about it, but you don't need a big fucking party for it. At least in my opinion. In regards to what I was saying earlier, I don't think these people, a lot of these people, I would say most of them, the vast majority, aren't like transphobic. They're not doing this because they're like anti-trans or something like that. I just think that like here's the thing, transphobia is not just like prejudice or violence against like an individual or a group. It's a belief system, and that presumes non-trans people to be more natural than trans people, and I feel like that could give off the wrong kind of message. Like uh, to me, I feel like it upholds a rigid gender binary and it inadvertently perpetuates transphobia, even if it's not the intention. I mean, it contributes to a traditional gender narrative in which, like, cisgendered people are the norm, and and anything else is like a deviation. It just it rubs me the wrong way, and I don't think it's like inherently bad, but I do think it sets I don't know, bad precedent.
Mm.
It's
Huh?
like
I mean,
a mechanism of not heteronormativity, but whatever the equivalent that word is for trans folks. I don't know what the
Transnormativity.
yeah trans normativity, I
uh,
suppose. Um, or cis normativity, I suppose. I think that's what you're saying, Tiffany. Like it like it in and of itself isn't necessarily malicious or inherently transphobic, but like it is a mechanism that like kind of says, hey, this is the status quo, this is what is normal, and then and so then that way when like people are not a part of that status quo, it's kind of exclusive in nature. I think that's what you're saying, Tiffany.
Yes. By the way, is that like a Zelda sword behind you, like a
Yeah.
Link
It's a
sword? Oh, that's
master.
amazing. The
It's
Master
a
Sword.
master
Okay,
sword.
just want to make sure because I just noticed that I wasn't ignoring you. It's just like, is that the Master Sword?
Yeah,
I'm a big dork, so it's like that's amazing. Okay.
yeah, it's a master sword.
All right. Well, now I like you even more than I already did. You're amazing. All right.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, you pretty much reiterated everything I meant. So yeah, that's pretty much what I mean.
So,
Right. So I totally feel where you're coming from. I pick up what you're putting down. And like I mean it's totally true. There's a lot of things that goes on in society. And, like especially all the things that Johnny just mentioned, like little things in school, like I mean like when they go to PE, which group are they going to go with? When they like go get their general checkup, when they go through sex ed, which class are they going to go in? There's so many things in society that are just like gendered, and like it could pose an issue to like any child who is questioning their gender, and like and also to like parents knowing, because it's like I think like the heart of what like Johnny was asking was not just about like like how damaging gender reveal parties in and of themselves. I think the bigger issue that Johnny was like trying to ask was that that Johnny did ask was that like is it kind of like is it mercy almost for a parent to decide to raise their child with a gender as opposed to like doing it like Pink did, where you
Or at
raise
least
a
with
child
the
to be
sex.
gender neutral.
Or at least
Yeah,
with
and I
sex,
think that's
even if you don't gender them and let them wear whatever they want and say whatever their pronouns are from the get-go, at least like having them be, I think you summed it up perfectly, Lyra, but like specifically like to have people and their classmates know their sex. And I know that seems counterintuitive, but at the same time it's what I was trying to build on is like they're gonna know everybody else's sex from the get-go anyway.
so
Like
hiding your child would like
Yeah,
single them out.
I'm not saying don't let the kid like just hide the sex or don't tell them what their sex is. Like say you're neither this or that. Like raise them to be like non-binary. Like if you have a boy, for example, at least their sex is male. You can raise them as such until you see any deviation, or if there's no deviation, and bring them to a professional. If they deem they're not trans, then don't worry about it. It's like a whole process to transition. So I like just raise the kid how like as the sex, unless they demonstrate otherwise or say otherwise, because they're young trans people, and I don't know, when they come out, they have to see professionals, and these are kids that do what you said. Like for example, if they're male, they do male PE, they use the men's room, stuff like that. It like there's no reason to even worry about it unless they start to like question their identity or show signs or something like that. Like
Mm.
that's just me though. I don't think it's like a big deal. Like don't worry about it unless like it happens.
So I also want to answer Johnny's question. So when it comes to like, what the parent's role when it comes to deciding whether or not to raise your child, according to their sex, or like, with their sex being known for everyone. I think first and foremost, I think what matters more is like how the child themselves feels about it. Because it's like, okay, you can have one way where the parents are just like, no one's allowed to know your gender. Don't tell anybody what your sex is. And they're like, don't tell anybody what your sex is. That's nobody's business. And then like maybe the kid is just like, hey, I know you guys want to raise me gender neutral, but like I identify with my sex. And so like that's one way in which parents are like, forcing their ideology on them. And then you have the reverse, which is the part that's like a lot more like common, that more commonly happens, where the child is not. I'm sorry.
Vastly, yeah.
Fast.
Vastly, because like a parent forcibly non-binarying their child. What?
That happens.
Wait. I'm sorry. I didn't understand what you said.
Vastly.
Vastly.
VASTLEY. No,
vastly. Oh, okay.
No
I'm sorry.
E.
I'm like deaf.
No E. But vastly. But with okay, I guess I want to jump in. Oh, finish your point, Lyra.
Yeah, sorry. I would like to finish my point. But what I was going to say was like the opposite of what I just described, which is more common. Which is what I think more commonly happens, where parents decide to like, well, whatever your gender is, I've decided that this is your sex, and I'm going to raise you. I will only buy you girl clothes. I don't care what you identify as. And then like that's also obviously very damaging to the child, because they're being forced in a way that they're having an identity forced onto them that they do not agree with. So when it comes to like how like do you want to raise your child with a gender, and which is more damaging? I guess the most obvious answer is that it depends on a case-by-case basis of like what the child wants and what the child, and I'm saying child because like minor, you're at the mercy of what your parents basically want to do. If we're talking about what's safer, I mean, I pretty much it's like safer to go along with whichever gender, sex the child decides to go along with.
Yeah,
and if they change that later, go on with it. But I think the answer to like, I don't think there's any one answer to like, do you raise your child with the gender or not? I don't think there's any one answer to that, because I think it really does depend on the family and the child, and even like what place they're growing up with. Even then,
to me, it seems pretty easy. Like if, for example, the sex of my kid came out and it was male, I would let them know when they're old enough. Like, listen, you can be whoever you want to be. I'll love you no matter what. So if you have any thing to tell me, just tell me, and then I'll just raise that kid as if they were a cis boy, unless otherwise stated. And like if they come up and say, mommy, I think I'm a girl or something like that, then I'll take them to a professional or something, and I'll treat them as such until I figure out or they figure out what's going on, and seek professionals. But other than that, you just raise the kid, and if they never bring it up, then just don't do anything. It just seems easy to me.
So yeah, you were talking about like how it can be damaging that within our world everything is gendered, and so people who might be questioning themselves are forced into a box that they don't fit in. But is that a problem that we could ever actually solve? I mean, or is, and more to the point, is it worth solving?
I don't think it's a problem that we can solve outright, but it's definitely a problem that we can minimize. Especially with thinking specifically about the education system, there are so many things in education that are gendered that I do not think should be. So I don't think there's any one way to I don't think there's any way to fully outright solve the issue so that it doesn't happen anymore. But I do think there are things we could do to minimize it.
Yeah, I'm a gender abolitionist, and as such, I don't really care for gender. It's a social construct that seems unnecessary. But in order to kind of do what I want, would take decades. And even that's not guaranteed. So, unfortunately, we live in a society where there's a lot of stuff that's gendered. What we can do is try to erase some of the uh, the separation between male and female. For example, they have in some places uh gender, like all gender restrooms that are open for everyone and stuff like that. We can start working towards things along those lines. But unfortunately, as long as sex is an important thing in society, it's going to be really difficult to over get over that hurdle.
Uh, does anyone have anything else to say on this subject?
Nah, not really,
Yeah.
mate.
Yeah.
Well, sure. Just you did ask a question a few minutes ago, Prime, about why gender reveal parties? Like, what do we think? Are they what's the purpose and the idea behind it? I do I've never heard this take before, but I do agree with Johnny's take that it's about I think that it may be more so the parents just trying to get all the gender things that they want for their kid. But that I just want to mention that. And then I know this isn't the topic, but I would just say I don't really agree with outright gender abolition because hey, some people do identify with the gender. I really
Yeah,
like
trans
being a
people like
girl.
myself gain utility from gender, but at some point, ideally, it would be nice if it didn't matter. Like right now,
Oh
like
yeah, I just don't think that gender should be should not exist. I think I mean, hey, I like being a girl. I like saying, boys,
saying you can't
girls,
identify
girl,
as a girl, it's
Oh well, I mean, even with how to explain this? It's I guess I shouldn't have brought this as opposition because I don't know exactly what you want when you say gender abolition. I just think it's okay for people to identify with a gender and not to identify with the gender. I think it's people can have it both ways as long as no one's hurting each other. Which I'm sure I shouldn't have raise it as an opposition because I don't know exactly what you wanted by gender abolition.
I think I'm being a mischaracterized when I say gender abolitionist. It's a little more complicated than that. If you want to talk offline sometime, I'll explain it a little better in detail.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, I kind of just assumed you meant one day everyone will have no gender. I just assumed that's what you meant. So I'm sorry.
Do you mean more like gender liberation? This is a whole
Maybe.
rabbit hole. I'm sorry.
I told you I don't know a lot of the terminology, so I might.
No,
I
no,
might
not you. Like Tiffany, do you I've heard Lumi Rue describe it as gender liberation rather than gender abolition because it's the liberation from having to identify with the sex that you were born with because of society, and rather the fluidity of being able to move in a society and become a trans person or come to fruition as a non-binary person or something like that.
to that, but also I want to blur the lines between male and female. Like I was saying earlier, I like gendered bathrooms or some. That's just an example. Don't hold me to that, but stuff like that. I kind of want to erase some of that. Make it, I don't know, more inclusive, less stress on people. Because right now, unfortunately, a lot of this gender and sex stuff gets actually can harm people. For example, me, because I'm trans. Although it also can
Doesn't
help
harm me
because
though.
wait, What do you? Well, I mean, everyone's different. What do you mean harm you?
Well, like it, like I don't know, gender
No,
norms
what I
don't.
mean is like if people are basing it off your like biological sex, for example, there are places like you can't participate in certain sports, you can't go to certain homeless shelters, you can be denied access to healthcare, stuff like
Mhm.
that. That's like real stuff that we have to face, and it's because sex is a thing. So that's what I'm talking about. Issues like that.
Mhm. Yeah, I would separate those from the idea of gender abolition, though.
Mm.
I mean,
Just say that those
when I
areas
say blur the
specifically don't
lines,
need to be
if
gendered spaces.
well, what I'm
And
saying is like
obviously, it's a case by case situation where we need to analyze, like, does this provide utility or not? And I don't want to get into it because
I
it'll
mean, it
devolve
doesn't
into like
provide
an argument.
utility if you're using it to like actively harm a community.
Exactly. So
So, and that's what
you
I
have to
was.
look at it on a case by case basis.
Mm.
I guess like what the bottom line is that I'm sure we'll agree with is that like there are some instances where like gender is necessary. I think at the very least.
No,
No,
generally not really.
Hmm?
I mean,
But
it's like
you
you
know, I
mentioned
would
the
say it's
bathroom
more
thing,
about
and I don't think
there's
that's
almost no situations where it's required. It's more about like, do people feel more comfortable in a gendered environment, yay or nay? In this situation, yay or nay?
yeah, and those are
So,
the like the situations that I'm thinking about. I don't think it's very helpful to like decide
but
that like
then
nothing at all should be gendered.
but then again,
But I
people
do
that
think
no
things should
one's
be more
arguing that.
inclusive too at the same
Yeah, no
time.
one's arguing like for, complete removal of all gender rules and like forcibly not gendering stuff. Like, no, obviously not. That's a little silly. But like, um, I don't know. I would say it depends on, if people are comfortable in it being a gendered situation, but then that is also culturally relative to the norms that have been set up, priorly. So it's a big old confusing ball of spaghetti, and I don't want to wade into it. At
Yeah,
least
it's
not
like
right
a
now.
topic in and of itself.
Yeah, we're already like exceeding the limit, I think, on this topic, aren't we?
No, that's fine. We can talk about these things however long we want.
Please
We-
fire
we
your
could
gender
flow.
reveal rocket
So I just
directly
didn't know,
at me.
Prime, if we were on like a tight schedule.
No, no, not at all. But I feel like if we've covered the topic, then we can just move on. So, topic 2. Caitlyn Jenner is running for governor of California. Jenner had been controversial for a number of reasons. The latest of which is because she is apparently against trans girls competing with cis girls in sports. How should the LGBT movement deal with the conservative gay and trans individuals like Jenner? Should they be embraced as fellow members in the struggle, or are they an active detriment? Do you have any conservative trans people in your life? In case, again, to my audience, in case you didn't know, Caitlyn Jenner, yeah, she's running. And lots of people have problems with her, and I'm sure the individuals here will let her know what they think about this person. But now, as you all know, that trans people in sports, individuals in sports, is a big topic. Shouldn't be, but it is. She weighed in and she sided with Republicans because she's a Republican. Caitlyn, in case you don't know, Caitlyn Jenner is a Republican, and saying that it's unfair for transitioning. I think the quote was something like transitioning boys to compete with girls, or something like that. So I'm curious what everyone here has to say. And again, we can also expand this to conservative trans people in general. All right, go ahead, Johnny.
Okay, and I was gonna say earlier, like it seems like we could just flow from the last topic into this topic because essentially this topic is what do we think about not only people in the larger society in general who want to gender things or who don't want to gender things, what do we think about trans people themselves who stick to a more traditional aspect of that? And I do have
Hey, don't lump me in with her, man.
no, I was gonna say, a girl I call my sister, is a conservative trans person, and she is uh she generally agrees with like economic things that are more right wing, but she is generally against having people. She kind of has the same stance as me, actually. I think she used to go for uh trans people not being able to compete uh, uh in their non defining sex sports. But I have since sort of swayed her with my idea, which is that I believe that we should be taking more accurate measurements of what people's actual physicality can be with things like height and weight for sports more widely, rather than just going on what's in your pants. We already do that, but we just still separate it by what's in your pants. So I think that generally we can say that yes, these trans people are still part of our movement. There's still people who exist in bodies and senses and family situations that are similar to us as other trans people. But Caitlyn Jenner in particular is a rich person and was an Olympian. The reason that I take, and I'm sorry if I take a little bit longer on this,
That's fine.
the reason that I take Caitlyn Jenner's word so strongly on this is not because she's a rich person, it's because she was an Olympian. She is one of the people who I would go to say, hey, what do you as a trans person think about people competing in sports that are not of competing in sports with people who are of the opposite sex? I find it really interesting that she doesn't seem to have any views on something a little more nuanced, like taking height and weight measurements and maybe even taking muscle density and things like that into consideration. We certainly have the ability to measure those things. It's just not something that we generally take into play in something like children's sports. Most children's sports, I think t-ball, football, we shouldn't be gendering because they're children. They don't really have those staunch differences yet. But once they get into high school, like, yeah, definitely separate people. If you're going to have somebody who's 300 pounds and somebody who's 112 pounds, maybe don't put them on the same team. But up until that point, I don't see why we should be separating them. But yeah, Caitlyn Jenner as a person is really interesting to me. I heard her once in an interview say that a lot of her success in sports was in an effort to overcompensate for her gender dysphoria. And as a person who engaged in pageantry before I transitioned into being a transmasculine non-binary person, and I know that's funny saying this in a wig, but before I transitioned, I definitely felt some tinge of that, like, oh, I have to be hyper feminine. I have to like succeed at being hyper feminine. I have to compete with people at being hyper feminine in order to assure myself that I'm normal. And I see a lot of myself in that. So just yeah, I think Caitlyn Jenner's pretty interesting.
Okay, Tiffany Starr.
Yeah,
Sorry, you got it. Yeah, leg spike. I didn't hear any of that. Did everyone else?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah. Try it again, Tiffany, please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Please.
Oh, okay, that was weird. All right. Anyways, it's obvious that Caitlyn is catering to the right with a lot of her controversial takes, especially this one, as she herself is a Republican running for a Republican position, despite what anti-trans policies were implemented under Trump. But hating on trans people is like the MO right now, the go-to for the Republicans. So it makes sense that she would be doing this to cater to them. She also knows that a majority of her own base, like I was saying a minute ago, is transphobic as hell. And if she wants to win, she needs to appeal to their bigotry and hate. People like Caitlyn Jenner and Blair White are a detriment to the trans community, despite being trans themselves. They see fit to undo a lot of the progress that has been made in regards to trans rights and trans representation. They remind me of the whole cows for hamburgers analogy. They're no better than any other conservative in my mind, and I loathe conservatives, no matter what their gender identity is. I think it would be in the LGBTQ's best interest to ostracize these traitors, like burning off a wart, sort of. They don't properly represent the community, and the fact that a lot of the general public will look up to people to them specifically as if they're the leading authority on trans issues is disheartening. I know a few conservative trans people, but they're conservative for like because they value their gun rights, as if the left don't like guns. It's weird, or they have their bigotry towards another group overshadows their own gender identity.
I'm guessing Dr. K is not there. Dr. K. All right. We'll go to Lyra.
Okay, hello. All right. So when it comes to the Caitlyn Jenner conversation, when I read this topic, like the first thing that like came to my head was just like, with any marginalized group, it's important to remember that no one group, no marginalized group is a monolith. Not all Black people are liberals, and it's like not all women are like conservatives. So like. And it's because like I'm more so like thinking about the part where it says how should the LGBT movement deal with conservative gay and trans individuals like Jenner. It's like I'm like an ally, but I'm not like fully a part of this community, so I don't like I feel bad having too strong of an opinion on this, especially since like I still have a lot to learn. But it's like at the very least, it's always remember that like, hey, Caitlyn Jenner, she's a jerk, she's a jerk, but she's still she's still a part of your community. Even though like she is doing things that are detrimental, I think it's important to like never lose sight of like never let it divide you, because like what she's doing obviously is very dividing, very divisive, and very like harmful. But like don't let that poison your state of mind as well. But as for like, damn, what is this question? I'm still trying to fully understand like what the question is asking. Should they be embraced as fellow members in the struggle? I mean, yeah, she's still trans. I mean, she's still rich. So it's like there's a lot of rich privilege that factors into that as well. Like even with like among Black people, it's like a lot of times like I think we talked about this. I'm sorry I'm meta paneling and talking about other panels on this panel, but like we talked about how like there are Black people that go like, oh well, we're the neo-Black. I think that's been mentioned. I remember us talking about it's just like, hey, these are just people with like rich privilege, so like they don't really fully understand all the struggles of like racism because they have money, so they kind of like go above that. They don't have to suffer that. So then that leads to like people and having like even though like Caitlyn Jenner is trans herself, she still has a lot of like takes that are like very damaging to her own community. And I think it is important to like call that out when you see it, but like don't exclude them from the group as a whole, because I mean she is still trans. But like I'll stop ragging too hard on it. But yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna just completely vehemently disagree with a lot of what Tiffany said, honestly, because I don't see being trans as an ideology. And so how can I say I see being trans as the state of transitioning one's gender? I do not believe in gender ideology. That's a buzzword that was made up so that CNN and Fox News can get people to fight and sell a little bit more ad space. There is no gender ideology. There is gender, which exists because it is useful to cis people and to trans people. And there is ideology, which is something that people by and large base their entire lives around and believe in because it's something that is a set of supposed facts about the world that they will fight for. And I'm not fighting for anything when I say that I don't experience gender. I am in the state of transitioning my gender. So Caitlyn Jenner is not going against, to me, is not going against a trans ideology. She is not going against the entire trans community when she expresses her own opinion as an individual person. Just because she exists in a state of having a transition gender does not mean that she needs to fall in line with everyone else who has ever transitioned their gender in some sort of song and dance of what we're supposed to be or supposed to believe in. I think that's a little bit awful,
mean,
actually.
First off, I don't remember saying gender ideology.
No, I
so-
was equating what you said to
Yeah,
the
no, well, I
overall
didn't say gender
gender.
ideology.
I said gender ideology, baby.
Okay, well, I didn't say it. Anyways, what I meant was that if you're a trans person and you're against trans rights, then you're a piece of shit in my mind. That it's that simple. Like, you don't have to believe in the same thing just because you're trans.
What
but
trans
it's
rights are she against?
Trans women in sports.
Trans women in sports is not is being able to be in a sport a right?
I mean, apparently, if they legislate it, it is because they're trying to legislate trans women out of sports. That's the problem. It's not just are we allowed to, it's what are we not allowed to do. And there are a lot of anti-trans legislation going around, including bathroom bills and banning trans women in sports. And
I thought we were talking about Caitlyn Jenner, though. Like, I want to know what
we're talking about what she
explicitly fighting
believes, and
against.
she's shitting on other trans women. It's really
How?
simple. How?
How
I
is
mean, it is very damaging, though, that she
Yeah.
doesn't think that trans
Okay,
women
But
should
when
be
a
in
trans
sports.
athlete says trans women shouldn't compete with women, how is that damaging to the trans community?
that's what I'm wondering, is like, I have a different opinion from you as well. I don't believe that by and large every single trans woman should
I don't think every
compete
single
with
trans woman
every
should do it.
single woman.
I didn't say that.
So if she has expressed something that is binary against that, like, I don't see that as damaging the trans community. I see that as her sharing her opinions
No.
as a trans person.
No, she blatantly said trans women shouldn't compete with cis women, which doesn't make sense. There are instances where they can, and I can even go over them if you'd like. I don't.
I know. I'm aware.
Oh,
I'm a trans
well,
person.
then you should be aware why it's bad for a trans person to say, yeah, trans people shouldn't be able to do this.
I do that, though. I say every trans woman should not compete with every trans man, should not compete with every cis woman, should not compete with every cis man. I believe
Yeah,
that.
that's not my argument. My argument is she's saying trans
but my question is, am I damaging the trans community? And if so, the hell are you going to do about it?
even if you were, it does. Well, what do you want me to do about it? I can call you an asshole. I mean, what do you? That's why I'm doing the Caitlyn Jenner. Here's the thing. You're not trans, so your opinion means very
I am
little.
a trans person, actually.
Okay. No, what I meant is you're
you
not.
want me to take this fucking shit off? You want me to
No.
take the shit off? You want me to take the gendered shit off so you'll take me seriously?
I didn't see your pronouns listed like mine, so I don't know what you go by.
Why
But if
should
you
I lift my goddamn
okay,
pronouns?
well, you're not male to female trans. Okay, you're like what, non-binary or something.
Oh boy.
The point is, you're
Wow.
not this. You don't have to
Okay.
worry about
I'm
the
not the
legislation. I
same.
do. People
Sh-
like me have to worry about the legislation.
Oh,
So
really?
coming from someone that
because I was the trans kid who wasn't allowed to play football. So what the fuck do you say
yeah,
about
so you
that?
should be able to relate. But I guess you want to be a Caitlyn Jenner and
No,
just like shit on
I
other
might
trans
want
people in
to be. I
sports.
might want to be an Olympian. That might be something to aspire to.
But no one's
I
saying
don't
you can't be an
think I don't think
Mhm.
it's
An Olympian and a possible candidate for a governor of a
You're
state.
missing the point. If a trans person is
And
shitting
a
on other
mother and a father and all of these wonderful things that she's done. Like, I don't understand what's wrong with her.
Wait, what? Why are you like talking up a Republican who's been
Because
nothing but?
I'm not inherently against Republicans. Dun dun
Well,
dun.
then that means you're an awful person in my eyes because.
Oh, I knew that was coming.
Well,
I knew that
Caitlyn
was
Jenner.
coming.
Well, you know I hate conservatives. Like fuck them. But you
I
gotta
knew
remember
was
that.
coming.
But conservative, like Caitlyn Jenner in particular, is a Trump supporter. So I mean, if you want to like have fun with a Trump supporter and like take their side, you know.
Why exactly? Why exactly is it that Caitlyn Jenner is
You're breaking
Yeah,
up.
you're breaking up. If you could try to,
Okay, I'm sorry.
no, try one more time. You were just breaking up for a
Okay.
little bit. Try it again, please.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Why exactly can I, as a trans person, and I am, sweetie, a trans person, just because
I
I'm
never
fluid.
said you weren't.
Yes, you did. You said that I was not the
I only
same.
said that until you corrected me,
You
and
said
then
I
I
was
have.
not the same. Of course,
Well,
sweetheart.
no, you're not the same
So-
as me. They're different, like trans people.
You didn't say as me. You said the same.
I said afterwards.
know what
you're
you
not a
meant.
male to female trans woman, which is different. I said that after you told me you were trans. If
That
you
was-
want to roll
by
it
the
back
way-
like
by the
Walmart and
way-
rewatch the video, we can do it.
Oh no, I heard you.
I think that this, okay, listen, I know fully well, I'm a cis woman, I'm not trans, so like clearly like the things that I say do not hold as much impact
Oh no,
as
I think they
what,
do.
with what
Actually,
you
I
just said.
think that your opinion matters just as much as anybody's, Lyra's, and I think
Well,
that's
yeah,
a big difference
it
between a lot
matters,
of
but
people.
whenever I'm an ally, or whenever anyone is an ally of a movement, it is always super important not to like overstep the voices of the people that movement is about. And I've said that about like other movements as well, including Black Lives Matter. But what I do want to step in here to say is I think it's completely ridiculous and divisive and so destructive to turn this conversation, a very necessary conversation, mind you, into an oppression Olympics almost. Like Tiffany,
That
like
was
I
the
understand that it's you can misgender, it's okay to misgender people as long as you correct it. And Johnny definitely corrected you on that. And you were like, okay, I'm sorry, you are trans. But to then say that like you are not this specific kind of trans, as if that like matters in this conversation. Because you both are still trans. It's like it's not like
No,
because you are
the
this specific type of
legislation
trans that somehow what you say matters more than what she says. Because
this
you're both
legislation
trans.
is specifically for male to females.
But it can harm both, though. It can harm both. So, like, to try to discount her opinion.
No, I'm not
because
saying
she's
it can't
a
harm
specific kind
both,
of trans.
but right now it's directly impacting male to females, like in like the majority of them.
Okay,
Like,
but it can still impact both. Until I think it's super.
yeah, and if it can
destructive to
impact
decide
both
that,
and
like,
you're still
well,
all for it,
okay,
yeah.
but like that's another conversation which I'm about to get
Listen,
into
all
now.
I said
Listen,
was
Tiffany, I get what you're saying.
So you said something, Sarah, so she can respond, and you can go back right after Lyra. So if you want to respond to what Lyra just said to you.
Sorry, you're breaking up.
Sorry, am I breaking up? Oh wow, that's fun. Well,
Oh,
I don't
you're
know.
good now.
Okay, well, anyway,
It's Discord,
yeah,
you know how it
Discord's messing up. Sorry, everyone. But yeah, let Tiffany respond to what you were saying to her, and then you can respond back, Lyra.
Okay.
I didn't want to like get into this whole like separate issue. I was just stating that if you're a trans person and you shit on other trans people, then to me that's negative in my eyes. And I don't just dislike her for saying that. I also dislike her because she's a conservative. I don't like conservatives. I don't like their beliefs. I don't like what they stand for. I don't like the policies they push for. And one of the things one of the group she's catering to are Republicans who currently are on a huge fucking diatribe attacking trans people and implementing legislation like recently 3 states I think trying to restrict trans people from getting hormones until they're like 18, which is fucking asinine to me.
You're breaking up a little bit.
Oh, I could hear her. Oh man, Discord's just not up. Worst case
Discord's been messing up. First Johnny, then you, now me.
Worst case scenario, we could switch to StreamYard. We could all unmute in StreamYard if we have to, and then just not use Discord.
So I'm not saying people can't have opinions. I'm just saying this is why I think Caitlyn is a bad person. Like, has Caitlyn done good things in her life? Sure, but recently that doesn't excuse all the recent shit she's been doing.
Did you hear her, Lyra? Did you hear what she said?
I caught the ending part. I think I get the gist.
Maybe let's try switching over to StreamYard, right? So don't leave Discord for now. Just mute yourself or deafen yourself in Discord, and then unmute yourself in StreamYard. Okay.
Okay, done. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay, so with going back to with what I was saying, I don't think like you are totally within your rights, Tiffany, to vehemently disagree with Johnny and to even hate her for being a Republican. Like that's totally within your rights. I mean, I strongly dislike Republicans, mostly Republican politicians. But like I like listen, it is in your rights to do that. But I just want to fuss at you about the whole, distincting the different kinds of transes when it comes to this conversation. But then the other thing that I wanted to do was fuss at you too, Johnny, because I don't think there's anything wrong with deciding, hey, Caitlyn Jenner is a trans person, and what she is doing is harmful to the trans community. Because what she's doing is harmful to the trans community.
I just wanted to know what
can't compete in certain sports. I mean,
I wanted to know what was different.
I mean, it's okay for you to disagree and even to agree with what.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so sorry, you're still breaking up for me. Could you say that again? Yeah. I think it's just my internet, but.
Okay. Yeah, because your image is a little fuzzy, actually, Lyra. So
Yeah,
anyway,
I think it's just me.
what I was going to say is I wanted to know specifically what Caitlyn Jenner was supposedly doing wrong. And when I heard, well, she's saying that a lot of trans people, and maybe she's saying all, what she's saying is that trans women and cis women should not compete in the same sports. I say that in a slightly more nuanced way, in a way that has exceptions, but I still say that to an extent. So I was wondering, am I going to be the next person who's, not venerated, but vilified on this panel for being supposedly against trans people, when in fact, I am a trans person who has experienced the very gendered sports issues that we are discussing on this panel. It's really funny when I come on these panels and these hypotheticals I find oftentimes are actually my lived experiences, because I have a lot of weird lived experiences. I'm a trans person. I've been in a lot of communities in my lifetime. And oftentimes when we talk about these really sensitive subjects, I find myself identifying with them. And so I wondered, what is different? That's what I wanted to know. Not, is Caitlyn Jenner harming trans people? I more so wanted to know, am I to an extent, and I wanted Tiffany's opinion, am I to an extent harming trans people by saying all trans girls and all cis girls can't compete in the same sports together?
Maybe there was a
So there are
miscommunication,
two
because
things that are being.
I never said that I think all trans women should compete with cis women. I never said that. Here's the thing, and this is why I think the disconnect we had, Johnny. If you look at the article, it was a generalization. She was pretty much saying all trans women cannot participate in like sports with cis women, which I don't know. I find that a little hypocritical, but also it's anti-science, and I do to some extent agree. I don't think trans women who were athletes prior, or who came out as trans but were not on hormones, should be allowed to participate in trans women's sports. I think that if trans women have been on estrogen, HRT, all that stuff for at least 2 years, you can go by a case-by-case basis. Trans women are built differently. Everyone's built differently. Some people are bulky, some people are not, some people have muscle mass. It's just genetics and how you treat your body. So I think that could be a case-by-case basis. I think that trans women who never go through a male puberty, they go on blockers at a young age, they should just be able to participate because they never went through that. That's my thing. I also want to apologize for misgendering you. I did not know, and now I know, so I will. Just let me know what your pronouns are, because I'm so used to having them in Discord now, because people have been asking me to do that. That's why it says like she there. So plus, the wig looked, really good. So you threw me off. I mean, you still look good. Just saying. So no, I'm not like saying you're transphobic just because you think some trans women shouldn't compete. I agree. But what I'm saying is Caitlyn Jenner is saying no trans women can compete unless she comes out and states otherwise. Then I'll reevaluate, my position. Mm-hmm. And that is the issue I have. If it's also coming from another trans person, which to me, it kind of like hits home.
Yeah. Cool. No, absolutely. And my pronouns are they, she. I do accept she because I do accept that I look like a feminine person. As we covered at the beginning of the stream, I was putting on makeup and doing a little makeup class for somebody today. So I decided to go a little bit more femme presenting because I am fluid. But I do appreciate the nuance that you have. It seems to be very similar to what my overall ideas are on the subject. I think that case-by-case basis after somebody's on HRT is a very good way to go about it, especially with hormone blockers being something, which, by the way, hormone blockers is something that I want to have a discussion about, but I absolutely do not think it should happen on stream. I think it's something that a group of trans people on Twitch should be able to get together and do by themselves.
If you want to do it, I'm down for doing it. I think the contention we were having is a misunderstanding, because I'm not I agree with you on a lot of the stuff we're talking about. I don't know why I got so heated. Whatever.
I think it was because you thought that I was a person who was coming into your space, and I totally understand that.
No, I think what it was I thought I think it's because I thought you were defending Caitlyn Jenner in
They are.
I wanted to see the
No, but
similarities, and I wanted to say, you know, I'm saying that Caitlyn Jenner. First of all, I do disagree with you because I don't just hate her because she's a Republican, and I do think she's a very impressive woman. I think she's had an interesting life, and I would like to know more about her. Do I know if she's a good person? I don't fucking know. She's a celebrity, but it's that kind of thing. I was kind of defending her, but not in the way that I think you thought.
Yeah, that's what the thing was. When I knew you were defending her, but in my mind, because when I was thinking, you were defending her position. In my head, her position is all trans women should not participate with cis women. I know now that that's not what you meant, because I don't know if you thought that she meant like case by case as well, but she did not specify that. And that's where I think the disconnect was. I thought you were defending the fact that all trans women should not participate in cis women's sports.
I see. Thank you for clearing that up, dude. I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you for I don't know. It's like I don't know why there was such contention, but now we know. And it was
oh my god, I can't wait for somebody to clip me throwing off my wig. That's gonna be so fun.
Lyra, you can go. After that, I actually have some interesting things to say on this. But Lyra, please.
Yes. So I actually want to, hopefully I don't like, everything's kind of like blocky for me now, but it's getting a little bit better. But I actually want to engage with Johnny on the question that she proposed, where it was just like, well, when she said that like her opinion is like different from what people generally, everyone's frozen now.
We can hear you. We can still hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
You're jittering, but we can still hear you.
All right, are you on a delay? You can't hear us.
Oh no.
No. All right. So I'm gonna.
Everyone's frozen.
Tell her to again.
It's
the Twitch gods are silencing me.
Can you hear us? Someone keep talking for her, please. Anyone? Johnny.
I can hear you.
Oh, hi. Hello.
You can hear me? Okay, yeah. Lyra, do me a favor, Lyra.
Everyone's unfrozen now.
Lyra, do me a favor. Try disconnecting, leaving, and coming back.
Oh, everyone's frozen again.
Oh my god. Someone give me.
Okay.
Lyra. Yeah, she's not on. I try disconnecting.
Oh, this is.
Okay. Lyra.
Can you pick Prime?
Yeah, I could, but like then she's still not going to know what I'm trying to tell her, because I don't see her on. That happened any which way. But she might not be able to stream at the same time because she's also streaming, and it's probably gonna be a problem. Hold on, I'm gonna just send her a message. You might also have to stop streaming. Okay. So hopefully our good friend Lyra gets back to us soon, because I was definitely interested in always interested in what she has to say, even when I disagree with her, and we actually do disagree quite often, which is a lot of fun. But okay, so I want to wait till she gets back before I say my thing, because I know she's definitely going to have something to say about what I'm going to say. But I guess we'll focus in on Caitlyn for a bit more. So you don't think that, Johnny, you don't think that a person within the Republican Party, right? A Republican Party that is openly and actively hostile to you and Tiffany and to other people in your community that you love, you don't think that person is not doing an active harm to you?
I see it almost as a boomerism because and I accept that she has way more power than either me or Tiffany because she's a celebrity. That's a whole other can of worms. But as a trans person purely, I see it more as a boomerism. I see it like, you know, there are older people who believe that women belong in the home and stuff like that. And I'm not going to sit here and say that that's correct, but I'm going to say that it obviously worked for Nancy Sue. So Nancy Sue can go off in her rocking chair and think whatever the fuck she wants. But it's more a matter of, is she going against some sort of monolithic transness? And I was thinking that it was probably no. That was my initial inclination. You know, it was more her sharing her opinion. And I see more that I talk about it, that it really could be more than just her opinion. What if she was to win the governorship of California? Well, she could really be involved in making some of these anti-trans female laws. And so I think that I'm seeing more of Tiffany's side over here, where Caitlyn Jenner is not just any trans person, and what she does can actually be like really, quote unquote, against trans people. Now, let me caveat this. I do not think that Caitlyn Jenner thinks that she is going against trans people. I think that she's an older person with an older mindset who sees things in probably a very binary way and wants to protect trans kids as well as cis kids. And a lot of people who have that mindset set in that, oh, boys are bigger than girls. And so if you grow up a boy, you're going to be bigger than the girls and you're going to hurt. And if you turn into a trans girl, you're going to hurt the cis girls because they're all tiny. Like, I can see like an old person saying that, I don't think she thinks she's harming people, but she might actually be,
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, she may have an older mindset. No one's denying that. I don't exclude that as a possibility. However, even if it's like boomerism, it's still harmful if someone does it. Like, if you go to a store and a person calls like if you're like a trans woman or like Johnny, if you went into a store and someone misgendered you, even if they didn't mean to, it was an accident and they didn't mean anything by it, it's still harmful to you. It drags people down, and that's just like a smaller version of what I'm talking about. Like this, like people, like here's the problem: Republicans who actually do hate trans people and do want to legislate us out of existence are going to hang on to her word and say, "Look, a trans person said that trans people shouldn't be in sports." I mean, if they're saying it, then maybe they shouldn't, and they're going to like fucking ride that line. They're just gonna use that to their advantage, and that's another issue I have. And even if she doesn't intend to make it harmful, it still can be, and I believe it will be, because you know how Republicans are. I know you're less critical about conservatives than I am, but I don't fault you for that. But I just absolutely hate them.
Lyra, you're looking awfully clear. Right? Yeah, I mean,
you look good.
I got canceled by my internet connection.
Yeah,
I don't know, maybe it's a sign.
You're looking awfully nice now, though. Really sharp. So, thank you for being back. Because definitely I actually really wanted to engage with you and Johnny on this. All right. So I'm actually closer to Tiffany's side on this one. So I can't speak so much on Caitlyn Jenner and all the trans community. I should look at Caitlyn, but I can talk about Black conservatives, and I'll say this: Black conservatives, they damage the movement. Absolutely, yeah. They actively make things worse. Well, not all. I don't want to say that all, but I think many of them actively make things worse for the rest of us. As with the trans brothers and sisters dealing with the Republican Party, right? That goes after them, that goes on these tirades about how terrible they are, how and we've all heard it, men in women's bathrooms, right? People were saying that in this chat just now. They were just saying that men in women's bathrooms, like predating on girls, like. This nonsense, right? Spread by the Republican Party. On the other hand, they did the same thing to African Americans, right? In terms of the saying that something is wrong with us in terms of crime and whatever, right? I don't have to go through the whole thing, but you're supporting this organization. You're supporting this organization. You're not actually reforming this organization, because sometimes that's why I hear that from Black conservatives. Oh, I'll work from the inside. You've accomplished nothing then. Okay, well then you've accomplished nothing, and you will never accomplish anything within this party. This is a party that is a vehicle for hate, and so yes, you are actively damaging us by being a part of it. And so when I see a Caitlyn Jenner, this is what I'm thinking. Of course, I can't tell trans people what they should be thinking about it, but this is what I'm thinking when I see that. You are like because Caitlyn Jenner, and if you looked at the article that we had been looking at, it shows quotes from Caitlyn previously where it seemed like she was in favor of trans athletes previously, but not anymore. Why? Well, she's running for office. And when you're running for office in the Republican Party, well, of course you can't be out for trans. Like, you have to attack them. There was I was just watching a program and they talked about this issue and how trans athletes like this. Fox News is apparently there's a study, right, like a media study showing that Fox News has talked about it has sections on trans athletes 72 times in just this year. 72 times they talked about trans athletes, right? Which is more than they talked about them in both 2020 and 2019 combined, right? And then they've gone around asking these Republican politicians who have been passing these laws against trans student athletes, right? Well, okay, this is a problem because apparently, cis girls can't compete with these trans kids, right? These trans females. So show us all these records that they're breaking, right? Show them completely outperforming all the rest. Oh, they don't have any examples of this? Apparently, like Connecticut, like something happened in Connecticut like 5 years ago, maybe, right? Sure. But like, there's not like an epidemic of epidemic, right? But like a large endless stream of trans females taking these titles, right, and breaking these records and just making it impossible. It's not a thing that happens. It's a made-up problem, right? This is a made-up problem, but this is what the Republican Party has to offer, and it has no policies. It has no policies that can help the common man, and so instead, it engages in these culture wars. It accuses the left of doing that, but this is what they're doing right now. This is it. Like, and then before that, Dr. Seuss, come the fuck on. How is this how are you a real thing? How is the Republican Party a real organization that pretends that it's offering something for America? It's not. So when I see conservative black conservatives, and I see trans conservatives, I'm saying like you are actively making everyone else's lives worse within your demographic. Maybe you care.
Is that what you, Lyra, when you said, Johnny, I'm going to fuss at you, is that kind of what you were getting at? Like this Candace Owens sort of effect wherein like this person is actively damaging the community because she has power, like kind of analogously?
Not precisely. So when I got cut out and canceled by the Twitch gods, what I was going to say was that I wanted to engage with you with like your question of that, like, well, how you were saying that like you have a differing opinion. And so like, are you then worthy to be vilified by the entire trans community because your opinion is different? That was what I want to, and like, I don't disagree with anything that Prime just said, at least not like too dramatically. But like what I more so wanted to talk to you about before I got cut out was like, I felt that like, I mean, maybe it's changed. I was out for like 2 minutes, but I felt that like with what I saw, you were conflating two things. And those two things was just that, okay, the trans community is not a monolith and it's okay for it to not be a monolith. And as so, it's okay for you to have a differing opinion than what say most trans people do may or may not have. Because like, hey, all Black people aren't a monolith, all women aren't a monolith, all trans people aren't a monolith. So there's nothing wrong with like having a different opinion. But at the same time, it's like what Caitlyn Jenner wants is it is damaging. And when you compare it to like what you believed into what Caitlyn Jenner, which and tell me if I'm understanding this wrong. Caitlyn Jenner wants to like straight up cut off specific trans folks from competing sports, whereas what you are more in line with, like, hey, we should let every single person compete with everyone else. And like I think what you were more so saying that like we should, like you mentioned, like bone density, muscle density, we should like care more about those things with deciding who gets to compete what and where, which I don't agree with, but like but you were basically saying, hey, I don't agree with that, like we should well, not me, but you were saying that, hey, you don't agree with that all trans people should be allowed to compete in every sport that they so choose, so then should you be vilified? So I don't think that because I don't think it's the act of you having an opinion different from, you know, the norm or the status quo of your community. I don't think that in and of itself is the bad thing. I think is that like what you're asking is, but what you're pining for is exclusive, and the person that you are defending does have a, like what she wants is very divisive. It is very damaging to the trans community, and there's nothing like she's still trans. She's still a part of the community. You know, all trans folks are monoliths, so it's okay to have differing opinions. But at the same time, when that opinion is effectively hurting people in their own community, we should call that out. And people should be allowed to call that out. And so it's not just that she has a different opinion. It's that her opinion is effectively harming people.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that what you and Prime just said are lining up perfectly. And at the same time, I'm also seeing like you're essentially saying just, you know, enforce social contracts. Like we know you're a part of the community. We know that there are certain things that are bad for our community, and so we get to call you out. It doesn't mean that you're not this thing anymore. It doesn't mean that, you know, you are not trans anymore. It means that you are espousing things that are harmful. I see what you mean.
Do you disagree with it?
No, I don't disagree with it. I don't necessarily think that, and I already said this before, I think you might have been gone, but I don't think that Caitlyn Jenner thinks she's harming the trans community. I think she thinks she's protecting trans kids and cis kids and keeping people sort of almost separate. And I think that that's an older, harmful way of looking at it. So I do understand what you're saying now. Yeah.
But Johnny, in that article that I sent to you, they showed quotes from Caitlyn, right, saying seemingly saying the opposite previously, right? I could see maybe how she could try to spin those, saying, "Oh, I just meant like I was in favor of trans athletes in general, like the concept of being a trans athlete, but like a trans, but not specifically a trans athlete within a sport that doesn't match your assigned sex at birth, right?" So maybe that's what she's going for. But like it seemed like, in one way or the other, it seemed like she was indeed in favor of this previously. So when you say that she doesn't know that she's damaging the movement, I'm not actually so sure. I think this is actually a cynical play to just get votes, right? Because again, party of hate, the Republican Party.
They probably sat her down. Honestly, some Republicans probably sat her down and said, "Caitlyn, we're going to let you run and we're going to back you, but we're not going to let you do anything that's like overtly against our already set out message." They probably absolutely did that. Yeah. And she probably has there's this fucked up idea for people who engage in the capitalist political system, wherein a lot of them think, somebody said it earlier, that they're going to change things from the inside. And that they're going to just magically be able to do whatever they want once they just get elected. I just have to get elected. And that might be the play here.
Yeah. And there's some...
I mean, I just don't see how she's going to win the election unless it's like she's in a red district, because running as a Republican in California is like a faux pas in a lot of areas. Additionally, I can't see anyone liking her. The right, a lot of the right won't like her just because she's trans. A lot of the people on the right are against trans people for whatever reason. And people on the left won't like it because they think she's a hypocrite harming the community. So I'm not sure how she's going to pull this through.
Okay, just writing something down. Okay, so there's lots of ways to take it, and again, I think these line up perfectly in terms of like Black conservatives and trans conservatives, right? And so if you at any point think I shouldn't be speaking on trans conservatives, well, pretend what I just said was on Black conservatives. So I think that these conservative minorities, right? They are useful tools of the Republican Party, right? Of conservative media, certainly. I mean, we see this in Fox News, right? Where they'll bring out African Americans, right, or Black conservatives, to tell the white people that watch Fox News that no, indeed, yes, black people are bad. No, you're absolutely right. Look at these criminals. You'll put this video on the screen. Well, look at these people are criminals. We're the fathers. We're the fathers. The community is wrong. So I'm going to repeat all these bullshit Republican talking points, right? And don't worry, please, don't worry, white folks. The system doesn't need to change. You yourself aren't racist, right? No, all that hateful things, those hateful things that you've been thinking in your mind, right? And that this news channel has been inflaming in you, no, those are correct, right? And anyone else who tells you otherwise, well, no, they're the real the race hustlers. But I think that was a Bill O'Reilly invention. But like race hustle, yeah. They're the real problem. Not you, certainly not. Don't look at, no need to look at the system. You're good people, right? And as good people, let's talk about how we can oppress these other people. That's what they're used for. That's what they're always used for. And they do their jobs very well. And so, Caitlyn Jenner, as far as I know, isn't like on that level of the worst of those like Fox News regulars. That there's that one sheriff,
Opayo?
No, not Arpaio. Yeah, he's white. There's an African American sheriff, and I forget what the guy's name is, but they bring him on all the time. There's a few others like these, right? But these people are extremely vitriolic and dangerous. As far as I know, Caitlyn isn't on that level, but that doesn't mean she's not serving a similar purpose. Yeah. What do y'all think?
No, I agree. I don't think she's as malicious as a lot of conservatives are, especially hosts on Fox News. I think Tucker Carlson's way worse. But I still think what she's saying and doing is bad.
The other two?
Yeah, I think that Caitlyn Jenner is a person who has been caught up in the world of being a politician, being a celebrity, being, unfortunately, as I was railing against gender ideology before, she's sort of become the face of this new wave of what the conservatives are calling gender ideology. They're calling it, they're calling the ability to be trans in public an ideology. They're trying to equate it to some sort of like new religion or some shit. And I think that's bullshit. And as much as Caitlyn Jenner wants to think that she is going to change things, I think that you've all done a lovely job of laying out exactly why she's doing the exact opposite.
So someone in chat let me know. It's David Clark. Sheriff David Clark is the one I was thinking. Thank you, OnlyFacts TV, letting me know about that. Yeah. And then there's Candace Owens and others just like them who come on and regularly do this. You have thoughts on that, Elira?
Yeah, that just speaks into like why I said it was like it's so important. It's like it's okay for like, because no group is a monolith. It's okay for people to have different opinions, but at the same time, it is 100% necessary to call out when those opinions are damaging to the community, no matter who it's coming from, even if that person is a part of said community, whether it's Black, Asian, trans, women. It's always important to call it out because, like as Johnny mentioned, like there's this thing that we think that like they're gonna go in and change it from the inside, which like really one is like, why would that happen in politics? All these grifters? What do you mean? Like, if you wanted to change something from the inside, hand them a couple $1 million. But it's like I agree with everything that you said, Pon. That like oftentimes where these like with Black conservatives and with like Caitlyn Jenner when it comes to the trans community, they'll be used as a mechanism for these like not racist, but like racist, homophobic, and transphobic ideals to persist and to perpetuate themselves. Because like they'll say, "Hey, that's a trans person telling me that trans people should not compete in sports." So we'll give them the trans person is saying that. That's what people are going to point out. Like, even though they're like there's a lot of Republican voters out there who will vote for anything with a red hat on, but like they're gonna, even though they themselves can't stand trans people, they are transphobic. They're probably gonna vote for Caitlyn Jenner because she is of the Republican Party, and whether she realizes that she's perpetuating those ideals or not, that's what she's doing, especially since that's like what she's running on. So I don't disagree with anything that you said.
Yeah. So and other than that, I wanted to ask about their responsibility, because this one I'm a little bit more iffy on. This particular part of this, I'm a bit more iffy. Because so with celebrities, just a regular old celebrity, right? Not conservative or, or liberal. It's a regular old celebrity. What will happen is something will happen either in their personal life and their professional life, and you will get complaints at them saying, "Well, why aren't you like? There's so many kids looking up to you. You should have done better." I'm not so sure that like that's like the job of a celebrity to like do better for your kids. Like I've never been sold on that one. Like I appreciate celebrities that do hold themselves up to a higher standard because they do have an audience, right? And I'll like that's absolutely a great thing to do, to like recognize people are looking up to you, and maybe want to setting a good example. But for those who don't necessarily and are just living their lives, like
So we're talking about the responsibility of a celebrity to carry themselves as a role model, and by extension, like Caitlyn Jenner as a celebrity in politics.
So
is that what you're
so
leading
yeah,
into?
yeah. So what I'm trying to get to is that should she be, and I get, well, there's no other examples. Like I'm gonna say I could extend this to others, but there's no other examples but Caitlyn Jenner right now. Should we be holding her to a higher standard, and what does that actually look like? Because she is a conservative, and on many issues she does not agree, right? And so like, is it a valid claim that like, well, we maybe think she damages the movement, but she would be saying that, well, since you are a celebrity and people know you as the trans person, right, the face of the trans community, for better or worse, and for worse, honestly, then does she have some sort of elevated responsibility in terms of her actions? Maybe not just in the realm of politics, but just in general.
I think it has less to do with her being a celebrity and more to do with her, trying to become a political figure that can do like more harm and more damage with what with what legislation and what beliefs she decides to perpetuate in what legislation she puts forward. I mean, a lot of people like to say, "Hey, you're a celebrity. You should act a specific way." A lot of kids are looking up to you, about more people than just Caitlyn Jenner. Like every celebrity, like has a story. Like, is this celebrity being a role model? I don't think that I think people put celebrities on way too much of a pedestal, morality wise. Like they act like this is like, listen, that's just a rich person. Is like, I understand like wanting celebrities to be a good role model because so many, they're in the public eye and so many people are looking up to them. Whether like, even if just like seeing them day in and day out, like these are the people who are on display. So like clearly you would hope that they would act better, but like to expect them to, I think is like silly because it's like they're just people, So I think like in general celebrities are put on too much of a pedestal. However, we're talking about Caitlyn Jenner becoming a politician that could do harm. So I think it has less to do with her being celebrity, and like I think we should come, have these expectations and like critique every politician that's like this way. Not just Caitlyn Jenner because she's a celebrity, but like I mean we shouldn't cut corners on anyone at all. I think we should be more critical of politicians in general.
I find it really weird, and this, I don't really disagree with anything Lyra said, so this is kind of off topic, but I find it really weird that we pay little kids to be role models for other little kids. I'm thinking specifically like Nickelodeon, Disney Channel, that kind of bullshit thing where they farm celebrities essentially. We pay them for being good role models, even as they get older. Like Selena Gomez, for instance, is going to get more brand deals and shit like that than somebody like Miley Cyrus, who has scrubbed off her good girl Disney persona. So they essentially get paid more and better, the better quote unquote role model they are. And what does that really equate to? Well, it just means that you sit down, you shut up, you put the pretty makeup on, you do your job, and you don't go and get drunk in public afterward. And I just find the whole like celebrity farming thing and expecting these kids that we pay to be celebrities from the get-go, I really find it disturbing that they're somehow supposed to be role models for people, and yet they don't have any role models themselves because they're really just child actors. But that's a whole other topic, I guess. But that's just what came to mind when you started this topic.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say on this. Like, I just think, celebrities are just people. I don't really care. I mean, people are gonna look up to them as role models. I wouldn't. You can there's bands I like. I don't look up to them. I just like their music. But even if people look up to these celebrities as role models, the celebrities, in my eyes at least, they're just people living their lives. So I mean, I don't think they should strive to be a role model per se. I just think if you're gonna have an idol or something that you want to follow, choose a good one. Choose one that's not an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So did you have some final things to say?
I just wanted to say that I think when it comes to celebrities being paid more, on average when they when they do things that are more role model, I think that's less about society paying celebrities to act more like a role model and more about companies trying to cover their own ass. I think the whole I think companies go for people who are brand safe because at the end of the day the brand doesn't want to be associated with anyone that could be that can put their company name in danger. And why they care about that? Because they want the most money. A lot of times we find that there's a lot of people who have brand deals that are not brand safe at all, but they have those brand deals because even though they say a lot of crazy weird things, lots of people do things that a lot of people look up to them and want to do the things that they do. So I think it's a lot more about companies just trying to find a way to make the most money, and the most brand safe person you can find is a person who's popular and doesn't have too strong of any opinions. I don't think it's an effort to make more people role models. At least not come from the company side. I think everyone's just being a capitalist.
I forgot to ask, and I'm genuinely curious, and I hate to hop into the DeLorean and hit 88 miles per hour, but Johnny, earlier, because I wanted to get back to it and I totally forgot, you said that you had some issues in sports being trans. Can you tell me specifically? I just want to know,
So I was actually, because I'm 6'1", and I was a pretty fast kid. I did track, and I was also into competitive cheerleading, which is a contact sport. I was offered a spot on what was, of course, the all-male American football team. And somebody said something about football isn't gendered earlier in chat, so I had to be like, is it American football? Because American football is definitely only boys. So I obviously, because I was female, my mother did not let me try out for the football team because it would have all sorts of reasons. She didn't want me to be butch. Fun fact, actually, I told my mom when I was a kid, when I was around 15, I was like, Mom, I don't really need a fancy car or anything when I turn 16. I just need a truck so that I can help Dad out and stuff like that. She said, well, honey, you're so big. You would look so butch getting out of a truck. We'll just get you a car and then nobody will think you're a lesbian.
Oh, man.
So
That was
essentially my upbringing.
Yeah, I had a pretty hard upbringing too. I was just curious because you brought it up early, and I wanted to kind of relate and or at least empathize, if not sympathize. So I just wanted to before I forgot, because I was genuinely interested. Okay, we can hop back into the DeLorean and move back.
I kind of have a question about that too, if you don't mind. Sorry.
Oh, never mind. Back into the DeLorean.
So
make it quick, Lyra, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I go too long a lot. I ramble a lot. But Johnny, with your views that maybe there should be I guess you were saying more regulations on trans people's words. Do you think that has less to do with people being in trans and more to do with the specific body builds of people? Say if there's a person whose sex is female and they identify as female, but they're 6'5", should they be allowed to compete with on average more smaller mass females as well? Or should they be put in? So I'm saying was it really about trans people for you, or is it specifically just more about the body builds?
I noticed that we might have had a miscommunication earlier, so I'm glad that you asked that question, Lyra, because
I had a
it was
feeling.
it was never about just trans people for me. I think that by and large we would benefit a lot, and females would benefit, even cis females would benefit a lot from being challenged by actually saying, okay, well, you're taller than 5'10", so you need to be put on a team with other people who are taller than 5'10" and who have the same ability to grow muscle as you. And I think that extends to cis people. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I had a feeling that was the case. I mean, I don't agree with it, but I just wanted to make sure that like no one thought that you specifically were against like trans people committing. Because I had a feeling that was what it was about.
No.